What's going on, guys? Sticks here at TheTokenMinorities, bringing you the battle for Week 2 of Season 2 of the APA Showdown Little Cup League, and this week we are up against Bash and his Seattle Soulblaze. And before I get into the team, just a reminder that if you guys like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, as it helps us out a lot, and let's do more cool stuff for you guys. But anyway, on to the team. Like I said, we are up against Bash, whose channel is linked in the description below. I encourage you guys to go and check out his side. He is a very good player, and so I'm sure you guys will find something entertaining there. But either way, his team is the Munchlax, Axew, Clink, Clampearl, Swablu, Tyrogue, Sandals, Losis, Mareep, and Oddish. And quite frankly, from the get-go, it was kind of a, well, I'm looking for my Clampearl switch-ins and insert that GIF of John Travolta just kind of looking for his wallet. So yeah, I don't have any Clampearl switch-ins, and his team is very, very threatening. But that being said, I think my team is more threatening to him. I think that I actually have a pretty solid matchup, and solid is just taking that lightly. I think I have a very good matchup, given the offensive pressure that my Mons are able to put on him, given that his only removal is Swablu and Tyrogue, which admittedly Tyrogue can very easily come to this game, given my inherent fighting weakness. But either way, I think both of those are... I think Tyrogue is a decent mon, but I don't think it'll have time to rapid spin. And Swablu, well, if he brings Swablu, then happy birthday to me. So I will be able to exert sticky web pressure with Surskit, which, spoilers, you can kind of see the fact that I'm bringing Surskit, and Bunnelby just demolishes him, as his only normal resist is Clink, and I don't even need any sort of boosting item. Just like Adamant Max Attack Earthquake KOs the standard Eviolite Clink just from full, no questions asked. So yeah, Bunnelby is really going to be kind of my MO in terms of what I will hopefully be sweeping with. But otherwise, the rest of my team has a very solid matchup, with Pawniard putting on good pressure, same with Krogunk, and even Natu offensively can do very well against his team. So yeah, the whole point of this team is going to be to get webs up and just pressure the absolute crap out of him. But at the same time, he does have some pretty solid setup threats, like, I mean, Axew, Clink, Clampearl, like 1, 2, 3, very big threats. Solosis as well can pressure my team. Munchlax, potentially a curse set, because Munchlax is so bulky, could be an issue as well. So basically, as long as I'm keeping the pressure on him, then we should be in an okay spot. So the first mon that I'm going to be bringing is just an Eviolite 4 attacks Pawniard. I think this might be the exact set that's on Smogon, or if not very, very close to it, but that doesn't mean it's any less good in this matchup. Just knock off Iron Head, Sucker Punch, Brick Break, covers his team very nicely. Just knock off, gets rid of items. Iron Head gets, well, just harder hits on stuff that I don't necessarily want to be going for knockoff against, honestly. Like, Iron Head's good for the Tyrogue, just being able to take that thing out mainly, and the Sandile, but Sandile I can also Brick Break, but I mean, it's your standard Pawniard. Like, what are you going to do? It's Pawniard, it does one thing, well, not one thing, but I mean, like, it's going to be a physical attacker, it's going to have knockoff, doesn't mean you can necessarily deal with it that well. The next mon is going to be a Surskit with a Focus Sash, and surprise, surprise, I'm bringing a Surskit again with Sticky Web, Haze, Hydro Pump, and Ice Beam, and this Surskit does what it does. Comes in, gets up webs, and dies, and then it's on the rest of the team to just try to make sure that the webs stay up so that I can exert the proper pressure. And Haze was so things like Clampearl, Clink, Axew would not be able to use my Surskit as setup fodder, and Hydro Pump and Ice Beam just covered his team nicely, and then I just wanted to be as fast as possible so that I can most reliably get up my webs. Next up is going to be the main breaker and potential cleaner of this team in a Silk Scarf Bunnelby with Return, Quick Attack, Earthquake, and U-Turn. Now, admittedly, I had Life Orb on this at first, but it turned out that due to the 2 item clause, I had to figure out which of my 3 big attackers would not have a Life Orb. So yeah, that ended up being Bunnelby, just because the only thing that I'm not clicking a normal move against, which is Clink, I can just automatically demolish with Earthquake anyway, to where even like a defensive Clink would not be able to switch in to Return into Earthquake. Like, there's really there's not a whole lot Clink can do with a Bunnelby in front of it, like trying to switch into it, and then if the Clink is gone, well, I'm going to be clicking U-turn anyway, U-turn and quick attack, and Silk Scarf boosts basically the same as Life Orb due to Little Cup Calc. So that's what I'm going for with this Bunnelby, just max attack, 14 speed, just seemed to be a pretty good number in terms of what he could potentially run a Scarf on. Could have gone a little bit faster for like potentially the Sandile, but Sandile can hit 17 speed anyway, and that's probably what he would hit. So I just kind of thought that 14 was sufficient. I wanted to be able to take potential priority hits from like Tyrogue decently well. I mean, like I wouldn't be able to take it super well, but I mean just enough to change the calcs a little bit. Next up is going to be a Life Orb for attacks Natu with Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Signal Beam, and Heat Wave. This just covered his team very nicely, can exert a ton of pressure, and if the Munchlax is down and the Swablu is weakened, this Natu really just kind of murks him. Like it comes in and it claims kills. Like he does not have good switches, or he does not have good switch-ins to Psychic, and the ones that he does, well, I have coverage for those to hit those super effectively, and with Webs up, Natu's going to be the fastest, if not, well, it's either going to be the fastest or tied for the fastest. The only thing that he would be able to tie with me is to have his Sandile at Jolly and a Choice Scarf. That's the only way that he could potentially speed time my Natu with the sticky web up. So yeah, Natu's looking like a huge threat. Next up is going to be a Berry Juice Bonsly once again, and Tone kind of yelled at me for not doing this last week, but you might notice that there are 44 EVs left over. Well, those very easily could go, whoops, accidentally right-clicked, those very easily could go into HP, right? Nope. Well, considering the combination of Sturdy plus Berry Juice works most effectively when Berry Juice is able to bring you back up to your Sturdy, and Tone yelled at me last week, and I stand by my decision to put a little bit more investment into Bonsly's HP, just because I needed the specific calcs on Meowth. But this particular week, the combination of Berry Juice into Sturdy, well, plus Endure, like being able to get me all the way back up to full health, is good enough. Like, I don't need specific HP for specific calcs, so I just kind of rolled with it on Bonsly and was like, yeah, you know what, 21 makes the most sense. Stealth Rock, Thief, Endure, and Brick Break, it's the exact same set I ran last week. Worked then, and I'm hoping that it'll be able to put in a decent amount of work this week as well. And then the EVs just kind of maximized. Like, that's the thing with Little Cup, you just kind of maximize the EVs. You're not able to go as in-depth into certain calcs as you are in regular Draft League. So you're just like, well, let's see, does throwing into defense change this calc at all? No? Okay, I'll just throw it into SpDef. Does one more point in attack change anything? Nope, not really. Okay, well, we're just not going to worry about it. So it's just kind of a maximizing your EVs as much as possible, while still just, well, I guess maximizing your EVs. So yeah, it's just a matter of maximizing your EVs. And finally, we have a Life Orb Krogunk with Vacuum Wave, Knockoff, Drain Punch, and Sludge Bomb. This thing can absolutely destroy him if he does not have... If he does not have a good amount of stuff that can, like, if he doesn't have Violites on the right Mons, Krogunk can absolutely wreck him, as everything on his team is either O-Code or 2-hit KO'd by something that Krogunk can go for. I think, well, with Rocks up, then everything on his team is O-Code or 2-hit KO'd by a move from Krogunk. So really, really looking for this thing to put in a good amount of work this week. Even though Life Orb plus an HP stat over 20 is less than ideal, and I can get Krogunk down to 19, taking specifically Mach Punches and Fake Outs from Tyrogue is necessary enough in this matchup to where I was like, yeah, I'll be taking 2, but I also have Drain Punch potentially to recover my HP back up. And so I just rolled with it, and it's worked out in the mocks, so I'm hoping it will be able to work out in the game. But anyway, that is the team. Let's just go ahead and hop right on over to the battle. Alrighty, so here we are in the battle, and the first thing I'm noticing is that the two biggest threats to my team he didn't bring in the Solosis and the Munchlax. Like, those were two mons that I was most worried about taking on and figuring out like how I was going to deal with them, but he didn't bring either of them, so immediately I was like, oh, that's fantastic. But then realizing that he replaced them with the Swablu, I was kind of like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I had to just keep the pressure on and I can't go super reckless, so it was kind of like a, well, that's nice, but I would have kind of preferred if Munchlax and Solosis were there, just because I did feel like I was sufficiently prepped for both of those. But either way, this doesn't change anything in terms of my game plan. I'm going to lead off with my Surskit, as he does lead off with his Swablu, and right off the bat, I know there's nothing he can do if he wants to go for like a, I don't know if he has Magic Coat or if Swablu even gets Magic Coat, and quite frankly, I didn't even bother checking because lazy, so I immediately went for the Ice Beam, thinking that if he was going to bring like Magic Coat Swablu as a potential Sticky Web counter strategy, that he would just go for that right there. But he doesn't. The Ice Beam does reveal that this Swablu is a Spadef and Eviolite, so there's one of his Eviolite users that I'm able to chip down a little bit. As he goes for the Air Cutter, that brings me almost down to none, but now I'm just going to go immediately for the Sticky Web as he goes for the Roost, and really no matter what he does in this situation, I will come out with a decent chunk on Swablu and Sticky Web, so he realizes that there's no point in dragging that on any longer than it needs to, so he does just knock me out with the Air Cutter, and quite frankly, that is fine with me. But at this point, I'm going to go straight into my Bunnelby. I figure, okay, if Swablu is bulky enough to be able to take Ice Beam as well as it did, I mean, granted, Surskit isn't really strong at all, like it's super weak, but I mean still, just to be able to take the Ice Beams as well as it did, to not even like come close to a real 2-hit KO, I figured that he does not have enough speed to outspeed my Bunnelby, so I'm going to bring this thing in and I am going to claim my kill. I'm just going to go immediately for the return and something is going to drop. He goes into his Clink and that damage reveals that this thing is not Eviolite, so I was like, okay, what are the odds that this Clink is Scarfed? Because I mean, obviously, Clear Body allowed it to not suffer the speed drop, and so the only way that Clink can outspeed my Bunnelby at this point is if it's Scarfed, because Bunnelby does outspeed even a Jolly Clink, and the only way he can kill me is if he is an Adamant Scarf Clink and gets the absolute max roll twice with Gear Grind. So I figured that the odds are pretty in my favor at this point, and as soon as I remove Clink, I can just immediately start killing stuff with Return, just spamming Return with absolutely no remorse. So figured this is as good a time as any. Just going to go for the Earthquake. The Clink eats a Shukaberry, and that thing just drops. That wasn't even like close to living through the Shukaberry. But he goes into his Tyrogue, it's too early in the battle. I know that my Bunnelby can live an unboosted Mach Punch from Tyrogue, but I mean, I don't know if he has Fake Out, I don't know if he has a Choice Band, I don't know if he has a Focus Sash, just I have too many responses to just kind of let Bunnelby go down off the assumption that the Tyrogue is something where like I can easily live the hit and knock it out. So I am going to pull the switch into my Croagunk because I know that that thing can take whatever this Tyrogue wants to go for, and at this point I can go for a Sludge Bomb, as a Sludge Bomb into Vacuum Wave KOs a Scarf Sandile, and a Sludge Bomb into Drain Punch will KO any other Sandile. So I'm really not worried about him going into anything, so I am just going to go straight for the Sludge Bomb as he goes into his Swablu. That Life Orb damage from Sludge Bomb reveals that the Swablu is 100% Spadef, and I calced it, and even a max, like I know that he's going to have a little bit of mixed like investment somewhere or other, but even a max Swablu would not be able to live a Vacuum Wave at this range, so I was just like, you know what? I got this. Croagunk is just going to immediately go for the Vacuum Wave, and now his only removal threat apart from Tyrogue is gone, and if Tyrogue wants to take a turn to remove, well, then that's just a better situation overall for me. So now with my Croagunk in, I'm in a commanding position. Like I have Sticky Web up, my Croagunk's in, he has to bring in something to try to respond to this thing as he goes into his Axew, and I really wanted to make the call that he was just going to try to knock out my Croagunk, as, I mean, I wanted to make the call that he was going to knock this out knowing that Sludge Bomb into Vacuum Wave would have a good chance of knocking out the Axew, but I just couldn't bring myself to potentially let Axew set up, because if Axew gets up to +1, like this is one of the few setup threats that Bonsly can't deal with, because Mold Breaker will just break my Sturdy completely and there's no two ways about it. So because the Axew was in, it had the potential to set up, and I really didn't want to deal with that. I just went ahead and went for the Sludge Bomb, as even a quick attack could pick it off from that range, and he is going to be able to KO me with the Dragon Claw. So Yeah, really, really wish I had just gone straight into Pawn Yard at that point, taking the Dragon Claw and been able to knock something off, saving my Krogunk, but again, could not risk Axew potentially setting up a Dragon Dance and putting a ton of pressure on me, because that would have put me on the back foot. Like, as long as I'm dictating at this point, then I'm good, but if I let him potentially get set up, then I will be in trouble. But with Axew low, with Axew having been confirmed to be a Violite, Bunnelby is going to come in, claim its second kill of the game with return, and he is going to go straight into his Tyrogue again. So we're at the standoff. Bunnelby claimed a kill, Tyrogue comes in, but I still have one more resist in my Natu, which will be able to come in, take literally 1 damage from that Mach Punch, and at this point, I click Dazzling Gleam, and I claim a kill. Like, if Tyrogue is Focus Sash, well, then cool. He'll probably be able to knock me out with potential Dark Attack, whatever Dark Attack. I mean, it might get knockoff. I'm not sure about that, but really just if he is sashed, I'll bring it down to his sash. If he's not sashed, well, then Tyrogue is dead. He goes into Sandile, and he's a Violite, well, then he'll be able to live, but he's 2-hit KO'd. And if he's not a Violite, well, that thing just dies, and also it can't possibly be a Violite, because we also saw the Axew and Swablu being a Violite, so we know for a fact that none of the remaining Mons are E-Violite. So yeah, I click Dazzling Gleam, I just claim a kill as he goes into Clan Pearl, knowing that it's not going to do much of anything this game, as Dazzling Gleam will be a 2-hit KO, but I'm not messing around with any little cup rolls. I know that he's not going to pull the switch into his Sandile after I just clicked Dazzling Gleam, seeing that it was going to be a 2-hit KO. So I just went for the Psychic, knowing that, like, there was no way he was going to go for that, and Clan Pearl will go down at this point, and we are up 4-2 with 2 Mons that are both confirmed not to be a Violite, and also are weak to Swablu. Did I say Swablu? Have I just been saying Swablu this entire time? To Natu's Dazzling Gleam. So yeah, Natu claims the kill. Natu is the big threat. Swablu just kind of went down without a whimper. Actually, it took out Surskit, so there you go. Good job, Swablu. But either way, both of his Mons are weak to Dazzling Gleam at this point. My Natu is in. He goes into his Sandile, and we know for a fact that this thing cannot be a Violite. So up to this point in the game, I've played a really good... I've played a good game in my opinion. Like, I've executed my game plan very, very well, and albeit I would like to have rocks up, but otherwise I think, I mean, having 4 Mons that are very, very healthy left, him having 2 Mons left, and Sticky Web being up, puts me in a very commanding position to win the game. So first of all, with my Natu in against Sandile. Sandile, like I said, confirmed cannot be a Violite because Axew and Swablu were already the Violite users. So that kind of limits what Sandile can be. And the only way Sandile can possibly outspeed my Natu is to not only be Jolly Scarf, but also to win the 50-50 from the speed tie. So what my play should have been was to stay in with Natu, go for the Dazzling Gleam, as unless he was Rosalai Berry, Sandile was going down to a Life Orb Dazzling Gleam. I mean, that definitely was going to KO it. So, yeah, I mean, just apart from Rosalai Berry, which I don't see it being, Natu was going to claim the kill on the Sandile as long as it wasn't Jolly Scarfed and able to win the speed tie. And if he is Jolly Scarfed and wins the speed tie and knocks out my Natu, well, guess what? That is a free Pawn Yard to come in, go for a knockoff, either gets rid of Sandile's Scarf or gets rid of Tyrogue's whatever item it has, and then I will be able to react accordingly. Bunnelby is at a range where it can take a non-boosted item Tyrogue's hits. So basically, I'm just in a position to win if I stay in with Natu, even if he outspeeds me, and is able to knock me out with a Crunch. Because first of all, if he goes for Pursuit, then, I mean, it's still a 50-50 to knock me out. But if he outspeeds me, that confirms he's Scarfed, goes for Crunch, knocks out my Natu, that's a free Pawn Yard, that's a free knockoff, and that is an easy 2-0, if not potentially 3-0 win. Like, I mean, it's probably ended up being 2-0 once the trades were figured out. And if he does stay in, and my Natu outspeeds and knocks him out, well, that's just GG, because then I knock out the Tyrogue. But unfortunately, I make a very poor play and try to switch my Natu out, not even thinking about about the possibility of him going for Pursuit, and Natu goes down. So, okay, I screwed up that play, but I mean, given the roll potentially on Sandile against Natu, then that could have potentially not mattered. Like, he could have just knocked me out with Pursuit from that range because Natu is just kind of that frail defensively. And here's where I make my second big misplay, and this misplay could potentially cost me the match. So I go into my Bunnelby, and this Sandile is not confirmed Scarf, unfortunately, because I switched out. We don't know that it's Scarfed. So by going into Bunnelby instead of Pawniard, so what I should have done is gone Pawniard. Pawniard, if Sandile is faster than Pawniard and goes for Pursuit, well then that's a free knockoff. If he just switches into his Tyrogue, well then the Tyrogue loses its item, and then Bunnelby should be able to clean up the game with the combination of Bunnelby and Bonsly being able to take on a weakened Tyrogue and the Sandile. If he stayed in and I knocked him off, well then that's just a Brick Break KO with my Pawniard. No two ways about it, I'm able to win the game. Like I've said over and over, Bunnelby is out of range of Mach Punch from Tyrogue from full. Like from a non-boosted Tyrogue from full, Bunnelby is out of range of Mach Punch. And I need to keep it that way. However, by going into my Bunnelby, just thinking that I get a free KO at this point, I let Bunnelby take the damage that is necessary for Tyrogue to one-hit KO it, or to KO it from this range with Mach Punch. And yeah, that's just going to set off a whole lot of bad in this end game, because I am going to go for the Quick Attack. I was thinking, okay, Quick Attack into Brick Break from my Bonsly will be able to easily win the game. Bonsly will be able to outspeed this thing because of Sticky Web, but Quick Attack activates his Berry Juice, so he is back to full as my Bunnelby is dead. So yeah, I'm in a very bad position, because not only is that Tyrogue back at full health, that's also a bulky Tyrogue. Like, that is near, if not max HP, and that throws off the calcs quite a bit, because just a regular Tyrogue, Bonsly can 2-hit KO with Brick Break. A bulky Tyrogue, I'm not able to do that. So at this point, I have to go into Bonsly. Now I'm going to go for the Brick Break, just try to wear him down into Sucker Punch range of my Pawniard as he goes for Thief and steals my Berry Juice. Now, if I was not Thief on my own, then I would be in a really bad position, because then the Brick Break would put him in range of Berry Juice, he'd be back at full, and yeah, that'd just be a whole lot of bad for Pawniard. But luckily, I do have the Thief, so I'm just going to steal back that Berry Juice as I get a crit, but you'll see it won't end up necessarily mattering, as he high jump kicks me and crits me. That didn't matter at all, and I'm forced to go into my Pawniard. Now the damage from Tyrogue revealed that he is 100% adamant. Like, he's adamant, max attack, we know that, it just kind of makes sense. The roll on Pawniard, he needs literal absolute max in order to knock me out with Mach Punch. Like, there is a 1 in 16 roll, like I think the rolls are like 18, and then the max possible roll is 24. I think there's only one, well, I know that there's only one roll that hits 24, which is what he needs to knock me out. Every other roll, I live and will be able to win the game. Now, I could try to avoid that with Sucker Punch, but the fact that Tyrogue is max HP throws off the Sucker Punch calc. I will not be able to KO him from this range with Sucker Punch, and so I mean that's where the Thief doesn't really come into play, because I'm not able to KO him anyway. So I just have to go for the Iron Head. Like, I have to go for it, pray that he doesn't get that max possible roll. And as soon as I clicked Iron Head and I saw the Mach Punch animation go through, I just had to click Skip Turn. Because, like, I mean, I couldn't tell whether or not I won or lost based on the controls appearing on the bottom, like the pause, skip turn, yada yada. Because, I mean, the game would have been over after this turn anyway, so I wasn't able to get, like, spoilers on that. So I just had to click Skip Turn and pray that he didn't get the max possible roll, and that Pawniard was still standing at the end of this turn, and luckily he does not. We are able to live the Mach Punch and Iron Head his Tyrogue and win the game. So, oh, that was an insanely tense end game. Like, before I start ripping myself about how much I choked the end game, I do want to give insane credit to Bash for this, because he took a matchup that honestly I felt was really in my favor, given the threats that I had and the counterplay I had to his threats. So I felt like it was a very good matchup for me, but he still was able to not only like minimize the matchup difference, like not only take a bad matchup and make it into a game, but he was a max roll away from winning that game. So I mean, like, major props to him. But yeah, I mean, I was very disappointed in myself after this, and I know that sounds like a parent, like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed, but I mean, like, I just felt really frustrated with myself after this game because I had a very, very good game plan that obviously worked very well. I mean, I had Sticky Web up and 4 very healthy Mons to his 2 that were left over, but through just a couple bad plays, I had the ability to lose right at the end of the game if he got that max roll. So, I mean, it's frustrating, but luckily we were still able to take the win. But this is one of those wins that, like, usually you learn most about what you can do to improve from a loss, but these are the type of wins that you definitely have to look back on and be like, okay, well, I mean, I still got the win, but I definitely can improve. So yeah, always looking to improve. Hopefully we can play better next week, but once again, incredible game to bash. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys